Well, welcome back again. Just going to continue our conversation, and actually kind of fun with this one. You've actually had some friends, Audra, write in, maybe varying questions about our journey. We wanted to take this episode, and just maybe answer some of those, as many as we can, in the next block of time. So, welcome and fire away.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of them, and I'll just kind of breeze through. If you've listened to the earlier videos, we've already really talked about how we've met.
Yeah.
Talked about trust. So we'll start with this one that was, what's the hardest realization in getting to know your dad?
Dun, 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 dun.
I think the hardest realization about getting to know my dad was, really for me, it's just the lack of time we've had.
Okay, yeah.
That's hard. That's been hard for me.
Like in what sense? Like
lack of time in the time we've missed.
Oh, okay.
The time we've missed from the
Okay.
past.
Gotcha.
And getting to know you. Answered a lot of questions I had about myself. We are a lot alike in a scary kind of way. And just that's been the hardest part for me. And then trying to, and in some ways, knowing we're a lot alike, but we're also very different.
Yeah.
And not feeling the pressure of having to conform to any kind of, like, I have to be like my dad. I have to make a decision like my dad would. I have to.
You're still an individual.
Yeah, we're still in. You're still an individual, and we've had to learn that. Well, no, Dad, actually, I don't like that. I don't. I mean, cause here's a really silly example. I do not like old TV.
Oh yeah.
I do not enjoy 70s
like
and 80s TV.
No.
I like the only show I really like is like Sanford and Son. That's about it. So,
awesome.
And we're not gonna watch that with the children.
No, probably.
So, but like my siblings, they love like Zorro and A-Team and MacGyver.
Oh, yeah, MacGyver's awesome.
And I'm just, no, I'm sorry. And here's the thing, they don't watch a lot of TV, so they think this is really awesome. I grew up with TV. And I never liked it then. I could watch as much TV as I wanted to as a child, and I never watched those kind of shows. And so that's been kind of funny, but like differences. I'm sorry, Dad, I'm not going to watch the A-Team with you.
Oh, man.
And he's, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And stuff like that, you know. But Dad also doesn't. I can watch some sappy shows, and I like drama. I like drama and mystery and murder stuff, and he doesn't always like that.
Yeah.
And so, but we have settled that we both like blow 'em up movies. We like to watch movies, action movies where things blow up, and superhero movies.
The more blow ups, the
but
better.
like so stuff like that. So just, I mean, that's a silly example, but just in things of, yes, we're a lot alike, but also rubbing up each other and realizing that we still do have different interests.
Absolutely.
But that it's not a big deal. But that's kind of been the hardest thing, is just as you're getting to know whoever you're reconciling with. And I wrote a blog about this a while back, about dealing with how do you move forward from your past and you're free from it. And when you're talking to people, I'm very quick to say you can you can be free from your past.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to, the pain, the hurt, the resentment, all that can be forgiven. What you cannot do is remove the sadness from your past.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
You will never be able to go back in your past
and
scrub away the sadness.
Yeah.
You know, I still don't have a relationship with my real mom, and that's really sad. I can't remove that. Now, I've moved on. I've moved forward. I'm not bound by it. I'm not hurting. I'm not limping along.
Yeah.
But there are times, even now, when I'm sad by things that happen. If it's stuff with my dad, like I didn't grow up with him.
Yeah.
There were some very sad, dark times.
Yeah.
I can't remove the sadness. And we need, even as Christians, a lot of pastors will come in and say, you know, the Lord will give you your joy back. The Lord will help you move forward in joy. He can't go back in time and scrub out your sadness. Nor do I really, more I personally come to know him, nor is that necessary. You don't need to remove the sadness from your past, because it's still going to be sad. You know, if you don't have parents, that is sad. I don't care if you have the greatest adoptive parents, the greatest foster parents, the greatest grandparents, whoever. It is always going to be a sad thing. I may never know my parents. That is sad. It is. It just is what it is. You don't have to remove. You don't have to go back and say, oh, but now, because of the joy of the Lord. And no, now because of the joy of the Lord, you get to move forward in freedom and joy.
That's right.
You get to live the rest of your life in joy.
Yeah.
But when you look back, it'll still be sad. So if you're expecting it not to be, let me just help you out. You're never going to look back and not feel sad.
Yeah.
But that's not what's important. What's
Well,
important is how you live your life in the future.
Yeah, and like what even we talk about that, like when we first met, that I came to you and still say, man, I am sorry for the time we missed, but I can't go back there and repair it or all I can do is make a choice today to be there. I can't go back and be where I wasn't. You know what I mean? Like I can't go back to your, marching band days or to your, maybe grammar school plays. I can't go back in time and be where I wasn't, but I can be there today when we go out to Rhema and like we did a few months ago and check, or in the future when you have things that I can be there, but I can't be in the past. And I think, and for all of us, it is that realization of, man, I wish I could, but I just can't. So if we, and like you said, and even when you say that, I think to help people, so you'll see that and you go, man, and like you said, and it'll be sad. It'll be like, there'll be the regret. But with Jesus, you don't have to stay stuck there. You don't have to live in that.
You don't live in the regret.
Yeah,
You don't
exactly.
live
Yeah,
in the sadness.
Yeah.
You can have dark days and not live there.
Yeah.
And I think we really need to help people. And I'm
Yeah.
talking to you guys here, I'm talking to my dad, we need to help people
Absolutely.
as we bring them to Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus is not a magic eraser.
Yeah.
He can't go back and remove the sadness, but he can give you a new start.
That's right.
And that's what we need to focus on.
That's right.
And it took me a while to get there because for a lot of you want to, I thought magically when I met my dad, hard realization,
Yeah.
I really did think the sadness was going away. I thought all the issues I had that I went to counseling about were just going to magically disappear. The character flaws I had were going to magically disappear. And the moment I woke up the next day and I was the exact same person.
Yeah.
I knew my dad, but it was still there. I still had pain. I still had sorrow. I still had things I had to work on. I still had to go to counseling. I still had trust issues.
Yeah.
And I was really mad for a while. I mean, and then I had to realize it was the same thing when I came to know the Lord.
Yeah.
I woke up the next day and I had a lot of the same flaws and a lot of the same things, but I had hope.
Well,
I had a future.
Well, I think the difference is, and I was just thinking that you said that, in the hope in the future is this is okay. Well, now, like in the case of salvation with Jesus, now I'm with Him, and yes, in this case, He radically transforms us and changes us in our spirit and our inside, and then as we walk with Him, and through the renovation of our thinking and the renovation of choices in our life, we'll gradually go through a process of transformation externally that will match the internal. But like I said, but when we accept Christ and we wake up the next day and we're still the same person, except that we're with Him and He's with us. And I think that's the difference. Like in this kind of case is now, okay, yeah, we can't go backwards and undo the mistake I made, but now we can say, but now we have a life with each other. And I think that's what helps, like you say, make the future joyful, make the future sweet, is that, okay, well now, before all these years, for you for 20 years I didn't have a dad, now I do. And it's that turn, and we can't undo the pains and the hurts of the past, like I said, make them go away. But now we can say, but there was a turn point. And I think that's the power really of reconciliation and forgiveness is we can go back to but there was a day that changed. There was a day that turned and things got better. That's cool.
Yeah, so let's look at another question.
Yeah,
I think we've done that. Let's see. I don't want us to move us forward. Let's see. Okay, what has been the most rewarding part of meeting your dad and your family? I think it's just fun. I'll just go ahead and throw this caveat. I love my grandparents that raised me.
Absolutely.
I love my
We wanna
family.
make sure that's
This
big.
is not, I bash that side of my family and choose this side. I've been accused of that a lot. So I'm just going to throw that out there, and now I'm going to answer the question.
And before you answer the question, I want to make sure, and I'm glad you said that, because I want to make sure I say that I'm so grateful for your grandparents. And I say thank you for really stepping up into a place that you didn't have to, that wasn't, that was thrust upon you. And I appreciate that. And I say thank you very much, because there's so many that wouldn't have done that. and or would have done it maybe with more resentment or with, you know what I mean? It would have been worse.
Yeah.
But you guys not only accepted it, you accepted it with a willing heart. And so we're so grateful for that. So
So
anyway,
the most rewarding part, I just think it's been fun just to get to know everybody
Yeah.
and to get to be so involved in the children's lives, all my brothers and sisters. For many of them, the younger ones, they don't remember life without me
you.
being around.
That's
So
very cool.
they're that's been really cute to see because, well, how did you come from mom? I didn't come from your mommy, honey. Well, and you know, and as they get older, we'll have to tell them more.
Yeah.
But I'm protecting them for now. They don't have to know everything. But it's so cute to think, you know, from Caleb down, they don't remember a time when I wasn't around because Caleb
Right.
was 18 months old. Selah
Yeah.
was a baby. Courage was born when I was around.
Yeah.
So they've only known
Yeah.
me around. So that's been kind of
Absolutely.
cool.
Yeah.
And just to get to be involved in their life and get to be a fun big sister and get to do fun things. And I don't know, I've enjoyed that and just getting to know my dad and stepmom and
Yeah.
and us all getting to live together like we've done the last couple of years, even with my grandmother, and to have everybody kind of around and for us to be able to just get to know each other. It's been fun. I mean, it's been fun having some parents that are around. That's rewarding, and I've got a lot of spiritual counsel and help, and I'm very appreciative for that. And I don't know, they've always just encouraged me to do whatever the Lord tells me to do and help me move forward. And I don't know, they've asked me questions and not that gifts matter, but, you know, got me really cool things that I've always wanted, like gifts I would never buy for myself. And like, that's been kind of like, how did you even know I wanted that? You told me one time, and how did you even remember I told you that? So that's been kind of cool, just the thoughtfulness of it and just to have people around. And I don't know, that's the most rewarding part for me, is just been to have, not everybody gets to know their family. There are people I know that they never get to meet, or their family, you meet them and they don't want anything to do with you, or you meet them and you don't want anything to do with them because of how they are. And so for us to be able to even have had the opportunity
Absolutely.
to be in a place like we are right now, that's been really rewarding.
Absolutely.
And it's helped a lot of people so far, and I think it will continue to help. That's the best answer I have. Just that's on my side. It's been the most rewarding. I don't know.
Well, I mean, on you know, just thinking about that for me, and I think as well for Selena, for us is, I mean, to see what God has done in all that we've talked about up to so far in reconciliation, and to really, you know, for me to see how God really does what he says in Romans chapter 8, when he says he will turn all things for good. And again, not that and to make sure I'm clear, not that he caused it or any of that kind of stuff. I did. It was, but to see, and man, just to have a real sense of God. You could take my biggest, again, and we talked about this in the first episode, not you as a mistake, but you could take my biggest mistake in my error of what, and you can renew it, restore it, and turn. And then from birth out of that is getting to know you. Again, getting to see somebody that is so much like me, which is funny. You know what I mean? You know, sit there and to say, whoa, holy, you know, and we always have that, you know, is, wow, it's me and girl. I mean,
Well, even here's another fun. I'm throwing in a lot of funny stories because they're
good.
just
There's
they're
a lot.
funny. But when I first moved up to Canada a couple years ago, my dad and I had to go drop my car off to get some repairs when we were picking it up, and we went to Subway for lunch, and he let me order first, and I ordered Italian. Spicy Italian sandwich, and I got a Dr. Pepper and the same kind of chips. And then he ordered ordered the same thing. That's what he was going to order the whole time. But what's your favorite soft drink? Obviously Dr. Pepper. It's the best. Duh. And like we had never even talked about it, and just how even stuff like that. How we have.
Absolutely.
I don't like. Why didn't you get plain chips? Oh, I don't even like plain chips. If you don't have dip, there's no point. If there's no dip with the plain chip, I don't want it. I would rather have a flavor chip. And that's his exact.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's his exact the thoughts on the taste of it too.
Yeah.
And it was just funny how as we've gotten to just know each other, there are those little nuances. And even like you said, I really busted your nature versus nurture.
Oh, totally.
theory.
Messed up my whole nature versus nurture theory right out the window with that one. And that's been it's been the whole journey. I mean, again, even as we talked about, and I think the last episode, you know, that, even with the hard conversations, even with the challenging moments, but the whole process has really been rewarding. Again, not always easy, and we talked about that, but we should never expect life to be easy in that sense. But very enjoyable to look back and go, man, it's been so worth. And then even now for the future, again, that here in just a couple of days, you're going to go to the same Bible college that Selena and I went to and met, and not because we.
Oh, that was totally me.
That was you. That was not
guys.
because we foisted that.
My
upon
exact
you.
question was, would it be crazy if I went to Rhema in January?
But to see, and to me, to look at it and say, wow, now we're going to share even another life experience and to have another thing in common. And I think all those things are just the great nuances and beautifulness of a parent-child relationship or a family relationship is we really do share life and live life with one another, and we'll have these common threads that are binding us all together. And again, like you said, and I love the fact that the majority of your siblings are, our children they've only known you as sister, and even the older two look to you as sister, and to see that is not going to be the it's not going to be the ugly stepsisters on either side. Nobody, I'm grateful nobody in our family is Cinderella.
Yeah. You don't want to be Cinderella.
You don't want
Her life was really hard.
Exactly. So everybody is together. Everybody loves one another. Everybody is there, and I'm just excited for what all that has done. And
Yeah, let's see if we can answer another question.
Let's see. While you look it up, I'll check and see how we're doing on our timeline. Whoa. Oops. Okay, we're doing good.
Okay, I think we've talked about, there's a question about the emotions we were going through, but I
Yeah.
think we've already talked about that.
Okay.
Have we talked about that?
I think so, yeah.
We've talked a lot about emotions, so we're
Yeah.
and I'm not even, just for the people who know me, I'm not trying to avoid that question. I really honestly believe we've answered it. How did you move from not knowing each other to living with one another, and what was that like in real life? Okay, this is actually going to really work because
Yeah.
it's something that I thought we needed to talk about.
Okay, cool, good.
And we might have to do we'll see how we get. We might have to do another video to see how this goes. But what does it take to be reconciled? That's something that we'd have talked about. Well, it takes grace. I
Yeah.
would say grace, time, and intention.
Very good.
And we bumped
That's
into
very
this realization. See, I met them when I was a junior in college. I came up for the summer. I came up for Thanksgiving that year. And then I didn't see them for over a year. And we were finding ourselves I was finding myself really frustrated by the communication gap.
Yeah.
Because we were setting up appointments and we were missing them. And I called thinking that we could talk. And then we would talk and they didn't have as much time to talk as I wanted.
Yeah.
And we just needed to have a lot of conversations.
Yeah.
And the distance and the change in time was 2 hours apart.
Yeah.
And I was working full time, and we could never get together to talk. And then when we did set stuff up, one of us would end up having to miss it.
Yeah.
And it was just really frustrating. And I was getting to a place, honestly, myself, I think I told you this when we were talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm about ready to be done.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. Maybe we should just go to just send each other cards, call each other on our birthdays, and just move on with our. That's how I was feeling, and I think you were starting to sense that in me.
Yeah,
that
totally.
I started in that point. Looking back now, I started distancing myself.
Yeah.
Because it was painful, and I was starting to get a little resentful, and I hadn't worked through all the issues like I have now.
Yeah.
And I think you guys kind of sensed that, and we really just need to be close to each other because we needed to be intentional. And so I looked at where I was, and I was a college recruiter, but I was only going to be a college recruiter for about 8 months.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to go to grad school, but realized I really didn't want to, and I
Yeah.
didn't know why I would want to go to grad school at that point. And I really wanted to be close to my dad and stepmom and just get to know them and have an opportunity to get to know them. And so we just made the decision, and we talked about it. What if I came up after I finished? It was right before my birthday in the summer of 2013. What if I just came up and lived? And so that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah.
Was just we needed to be more intentional, and we needed to be in the same
Absolutely.
space. I'm not saying that's going to work for everybody. If you're listening to this, you need to reconcile. You're not always going to be able to move in with each other.
Yeah, totally.
You're not always going to
May
be
not
able,
always be advisable.
Yeah, it might not always be able to live in the same town, but as close as you can get to each other to where you can have regular times of being together.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say the better. Even if it's just you live 3 hours away and you say once a month we're getting together for a weekend at somebody's house or, whatever. You need to have time and intention. You need to have conversations that are not hindered by it's 1 o'clock where I live, it's 11 o'clock, where you live, and I have got to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think I said in the past video, I made myself sick when I first met my dad because I was staying up so late. And it was a necessary time. I don't mind that I got sick. My immune system just got shattered. But that was the biggest reason. So that's how we found ourselves living together. Was just we had to make a choice. How bad do we really want this? And for me, it was easier for me to move than it was for them. And then there was a time when that changed, and we all needed to move together. So we just decided to all move in together. Like we talked about before, I could have lived by myself, and I thought about it. But it worked out better for everybody financially. It worked out better for everybody time-wise if we just lived together. Yeah. So that's kind of how we ended up. I mean, if there's anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, no, I think that's how we ended up, and I think again, the journey really created the necessity for that. I mean, on one side, I mean, I think I don't know if I've told you about this, but I mean, as Selena and I prayed for you, even when we were moving from Canada back here to Alabama, it kept feeling like, one, we wanted to be with you, but we kept feeling like, for your journey, we needed to have close proximity, and we needed to be back here with you as you moved forward in this last stage that we've been in, if you will, from when we moved back to Canada.
That was a big deal.
It's a big deal, and so I think some of that will, again, we're not saying that this is what you need to do, because there's no formula, there's no.
No, this is just what happened in our journey. This is our story. It's the only story we can tell.
Yeah, and so, but it was this, it was just because of what we sensed in a time of prayer to say, okay, well, no, we need. I mean, again, I don't know how you'll take this. I'll just say it like that. Hopefully, is there were dragons you needed to face, and you needed to fight the dragons and slay them, but we needed to be close. It didn't need to happen from 3,000 miles away. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
we needed to be where, as you would go out on a daily basis, you could come home and say, you know what I mean? This is what's going on, and this is what's going on, and it not be this distance thing. And I think that's just it. But it came in a process. It wasn't, I can't say necessarily that we sat down premeditatedly.
No, it's how it happened.
It's just kind of how it unfolded.
How it all unfolded, and I knew that when we moved back, and that I understood I was one of the key reasons we were moving back. And so, that's kind of how it happened. And like Dad said, we weren't setting out with these goals. We never had let's sit down and talk about this. Yeah. And where's our 5-year journey going to be when we end? We never did that. It's just kind of how it all unfolded. Absolutely. And what it looked like in real life was a lot of really messy days. Absolutely. That's I have a friend, and I'm sorry. I'm just going to go. I'll make my public apology right now. If you think we are perfect, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Oops. Just hang out with us for about 5 minutes, because I have friends. Well, it just never felt like anything was wrong, and like everything was just so perfect, and that's how you. Well, on one side of this, let me just go ahead and answer that, throw this out there. I think it's human to put your best foot forward. Yeah. And I think it's wise. Yeah. As a Christian, number one, I try to focus on the positive. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying hide. I'm not saying if you're having issues in your life. That's not what I mean. Yeah. I just mean for a lot of my friends and family that knew me and have known me, there was a lot of negative things about my dad and then from the past, and there's a lot of negative things that happened to me in my life, and I just wanted everybody to have I wanted for their sake and for my own, I tried really hard not to paint them in a negative light, because I wanted to give them a chance to get to know people, and I wanted everybody to know that we have bad days, but it was that we're doing the best we can, and that's why I always tried to stay positive. Now, I couldn't always say nice things. They couldn't always say nice things about me. I would never want them to do that if it wasn't true. Yeah. But that's why for us, like, we never were trying to be, oh, y'all are so perfect and you have it all figured out and nothing bad ever happens. No, it was just we were trying to, as we talk to people, put things, the best part forward, and always taught more about the goodness, because there was more good than bad.
Absolutely.
Even though there has been bad.
Absolutely.
But messy days, I mean, and if you watch the last episode, people fold their towels different. People load the dishwasher different. People have different attitudes. Some people are morning people. Some people are not. I'm not the morning person. I'll just go ahead and tell you that. I'm not a morning person. And that was a big deal. We had to talk about that. You're a grumpy person in the morning. Yeah, probably not going to change. Sorry. I'll try to be nice. And I really have. I've tried to be nicer. I was not always nice in the morning. I'm a whole lot better now.
Yeah.
I'm not near as talkative. But things like that, you have to work. Things like that, that's just called everyday life. When I get married one day, I'm going to have to do the same thing with my husband. You did this, if you have a family, if you're watching, you have a family, you and your husband don't get along every day. Your children are not angels. You don't get along with them every day. Yeah. So what does life look like when you live with new people? It looks like life with new people. It's just like getting married. Yeah. That's the best example I have.
It's a good example.
It's just,
absolutely.
And it's going to be messy. And it's going to be beautiful all at the same time. Yeah. And you can't, so that's kind of real life. So but I'm sorry if you walked away thinking everything was just perfect. It wasn't, but that's why I was trying to explain myself. Yeah. But I think it's necessary, just because you're going through something like a reconciliation or anything that's going on in your life, healing, you don't have to lie about it, but it wouldn't hurt you to think more positively. Yeah. I've had to learn that. Yeah. When I try to maintain a positive attitude, things have gone better for me. And that's not a cop-out, and that's not to say that you can never be sad or have other emotions. I'm not saying that. But the more you can try to look at the positive, all those crazy cliches about positivity are all true. Yeah. And so I think that's kind of why, what does life look like, and how do you talk about it? And it's not that you're trying to hide. So don't ever hide. Don't ever lie either. Don't lie to people. But just to say, just to try to be positive. And I don't know if that answers the question, but that's the best way I know how to answer. I don't know if you have a different answer.
No, that's good. I think, again, I mean, I think you're right. What does it look like? It looks very daily. It just looks like every day, everyone getting up and everyone taking another step forward in this process that we're trying to create.
And you're not going to have life-shattering, life-altering cry till 2 o'clock in the morning because you're working things out, conversations every day.
No, and you couldn't
sustain that.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
That's something else I want to help you with. Is that's the part about being intentional.
Yeah.
That's why I said there's 3 things for reconciliation: grace, time, and intentionality. Yeah. Because it might look like more like a conversation a month, or maybe every couple of months, or whenever, and then just a lot of everyday being there, and just being around each other and doing normal things. And I have to just take a moment to say, you don't have to wear your Sister Susie Christian or Saint Joe, Saint Joe hat all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have a regular life, and that it's not separate from your quote unquote spiritual life. So it's just a lot of everyday things. It's very much like your walk with God. You don't have Jesus transcended on the mountain, transfigured on the mountain every day. That happened to those one time. Mm-hmm. You don't have a Damascus Road encounter every day, or a walk on the road to Emmaus every day, or any of the other things you see. Yeah. It's a lot of everyday, most anything. It's just the mundane. Yeah. And you have to be okay with that, and that's how you move forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so we're out of time on that one, so we're going to stop on this one. We'll have to come back and do some more. But no, and I think maybe the ending thought on this is just to remember that our life with Christ and our life with each other it's just very daily. It's filled with just normal activities, and something that's been on our mind and heart to tell as many people as possible. But the normal stuff is really the most spiritual stuff. Even though how awesome the transfiguration experience was, how awesome, the road to Damascus was, and the Emmaus appearing, and the walking on, and those things are awesome things, and we're not trying to ever belittle those things. But really, the most spiritual times are just the normal times, when we just get to be, grace-filled, Christ-filled, love-filled, joy-filled, in the daily. Mm-hmm. And just, I remember in the story of a brother Lawrence who wrote a book many, many, many years ago called Practicing His Presence. And he was a dishwasher in a monastery, and that was his job. But he said, Lord, I want you to be here with me washing the dishes, and I want to feel your presence while I'm washing dishes. And he got to a place where he was so aware of God being there that, the story goes that people would come and just want to hang out in the kitchen because God was there. And it's not because they were praying or worshiping or preaching, it was because there was just a man there who walked with God while he washed dishes. And that was such a tangible reality that it touched people's lives. And I think that's the real life of Christ, is when we're walking out our life, when we're working, when we're being a family, when we're doing just daily stuff. And God's there because he's there anyway. And we're just aware of it and allowing that, many times imperfectly, but always intentionally or wantingly allowing that to be expressed in those times. And so we look forward to talking to you again. Not quite sure when that's going to be because you're headed off to Bible college in just a couple of days, but we will come back sometime in the future. And again, we'd love to continue this conversation. My email address is brad.holloman@gmail.com, and yours
and mine is Audra G. Kennedy@gmail.com.
And you can reach us again at some time in the future. These will be on a website called graceanswers.tv, or you can find us on our family page called thehollomans.com. And until we see you again, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for listening to our conversation, taking part with us through your emails and correspondence. And you said again, Facebook, social media, we're there by the same names: Audra Kennedy, Brad Holloman, Selena Holloman, for those who would love to know my wife's perspective. We need to get Mom here.
I was thinking that we really tried it. It just
didn't work out schedule-wise, but in the future we need to have Selena here to get her perspective from the stepmom's point of view. But we love you guys, and we'll talk to you real soon.